All right, I had to. All right. The force is strong with you, Anthony. So we're going to talk about real estate, you and I. Introduce yourself to the internet land people.
Sure.
Please.
I'm Tony Ruperto. I am an agent with Phil at J. Phillip Real Estate. I've been licensed with Phil since 2014. Right after I graduated, and I now am the team lead at the Ally team at J. Phillip Real Estate. So yeah, it's been a fun 8 years of real estate, which is probably like a whole entire third or quarter of just my whole life now, which is crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah,
a third of your life. I wish it was that much of my life, but it's not that. Yeah. So 2014, this skinny, tall kid walks into the office, and by the way, you're an associate broker.
Now I am an associate broker. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Walks into the office, wants to sell real estate until he gets his acting thing going.
Mm-hmm.
I find out quickly that you and I shared an alma mater. You went to Kennedy.
Yes.
Did they call it Kennedy Catholic back then, or was it still John F. Kennedy when you were?
It's still technically John F. Kennedy Catholic High School, but it was just the short is just Kennedy Catholic.
We would say JFK.
Yeah.
All right, so you go there. You go away to college. You studied drama.
Yep, acting, theater, general, all that stuff. Yeah.
Why is it that people who study drama, you being a good example, aren't inducers of drama the way other people who aren't into drama bring drama into their lives? Why?
I think when you study drama, you get to at least contain the drama to the stage. You know, that's the fun part. It's like, I love drama. Don't get me wrong. I love a good amount of drama.
Acting.
Yeah, but when you can contain it to the stage and it's controlled chaos, I find it's a little more enjoyable. We get our fill from that.
So if I could go back and talk to younger me, I would have gotten into real estate about 6 years sooner. And I started when I was about 28. How old are you now? You're
29.
29. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. So you right out of school, you got into real estate. And were you successful right out of the gate, would you say?
No. I mean, I think I did have a deal like go through pretty quickly after joining. I think it was like 2 weeks before I got like my first accepted offer, which was like awesome and exciting. It was like $100,000 though. And I mean, but for me, that was a very exciting $100,000 sale. And I still that is still one of the closest clients. And I am currently listed. I have her house listed and is going under contract that I sold her like 8 years ago, my first deal ever. She's now reselling with me, which is a fun trip down memory lane. But no, my first year, I think I did maybe like 3 or 4 deals. Did not make a lot of money at all.
You did not.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, now I get why like 87% of realtors quit after the first year, and then another 80% leave after the second year.
It's a lot of 80%.
It is. But I made it.
I remember you, and we're not going to tell embarrassing Tony stories, but I do remember you calling me and asking me for advice from time to time.
Yes.
And one of the things you asked me about was teasing out the idea of getting your own home, like renting your own place, I think, which is a very normal post-collegiate kind of rite of passage in life. And I think we talked about not yet. At least that was my opinion at the time. And, one thing I will say, I'm going to say a lot of things about you, but one thing that bodes well for you and why you're still here is that you're very coachable. You know what an asshole is, right?
I can assume. I can.
Yeah. So an asshole is, and this is, a broker's headache. An asshole is somebody who contacts you, asks you questions, teases out all the best advice you can possibly offer, and then does the opposite. Doesn't listen.
Mm-hmm.
So lesson number one for anybody listening to us is that coachability is a portent of success. You can't succeed if you're not coachable, right? So it was a journey. Year 2, year 3, year 4, you're going along, and you're learning the business. You applied yourself, you participated. Tell me about that. Tell me about the journey from, we got 100,000 deal going to.
Yeah. So year 1, bad. Year 2 and 3, I actually worked on a team with another agent in the firm, Tom Recapito.
Mhm.
We worked together on everything, and that was great because Tom has a lot of experience and is a very, like, he knows an insane amount of real estate, and it was great for me to kind of really learn directly one-on-one with someone, while still like having him help me with the deals that I had and the experiences. Like, oh, I've never done a short sale, and Tom's like, I've done 20 in the last year. And so it was great to have that experience. I did more business, and then I had my quarter life crisis where I moved to Philadelphia and Italy. Listen, a half life crisis, not enough. You have to have a quarter life crisis, or you're not doing things right.
Okay.
So then I was like, oh my God, I'm like 24. What am I doing with my life? I need to do something big. So then I moved to Philly. I did commercial real estate with a commercial broker there. That was fun. Completely different world. And then I moved to Italy and taught English for a couple months. And then I moved back and I was like, what do I do? And then Phil was like, hey, I have an idea, a revolutionary idea. How about real estate? And I was like, maybe, just maybe. And that was in 2019. Yeah, but the year 2 and 3 with Tom were great for learning a ton of business, about how to generate business and how to handle current clients. And even working in commercial real estate with the broker there in Philadelphia was a wealth of knowledge, because commercial is such a whole different world than residential. But
Very different.
I mean, it shouldn't even. They shouldn't be called real estate. There's something else. I don't know what.
It should be a different license process.
It should be. It should be. But yeah, and then 2019, I came back, and the rest is history, at least for me.
So I'll give you my take on this. So I remember you going to Philly. I remember visiting you in Philly. I remember you were also teasing around the idea of serving in public office.
Yeah, yeah. That was, oh my God, that would have been insane, because I was running for a 4-year term position that like still would have been like, I would have just finished it and I left Philly the next year. So really good thing that didn't work out.
What was it, like a trustee or something like that?
So Philly has this weird like representative. They have a representative for like every block in the city, essentially. That a lot of other cities, I don't think, have that. I think it was something like a council person or something like that.
Yep.
There are hundreds of them throughout Philadelphia.
Yep.
And I just ran for one of them. I didn't really know anything about it, which is probably why I didn't do very well. But yeah.
So you didn't have any difficulty getting your Pennsylvania license, as I recall, because there's reciprocity.
There is, but I also, when I say doing commercial real estate, I was a assistant to a commercial broker where I helped him with a lot of his business, and just by doing that, I learned an insane amount.
Right.
And I still talk to clients and things like that, but didn't do anything that would require a licensed real estate
Did everybody hear that? He did not do anything that.
Yeah.
Right.
No licensed agent duties were performed.
All right, so I want to go back to one thing because it's important to bring up. You right now are actively transacting with the first person you ever closed with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. You stayed in touch with your past clients.
Oh yeah, for the past 8 years. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about best practices with agents, and we talk about putting together, your database and managing your database and all of that, I don't think people truly realize that your past clients are an absolute gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you go from prospecting, hard work, pushing shit uphill, hard work, prospecting, to, the tree is planted, it's grown, now you just harvest.
Yeah.
It's sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I remember I also have you came on with me to one of my first listing interviews ever with that house where they had about 6 dogs in it. Do you remember that one? It was an A-frame in like Dover.
Yes. Oh, I remember that. What do we remember about that, Anthony?
I remember us being very attracted to both members, that we didn't have to fight over the couple. And there were dogs.
It was a very attractive couple.
Yeah.
And since you and I walk on different sides of the street.
Yeah.
In a different world, we could have, it was a different world for me also. I don't believe I was available. But had I been available, that would have been quite an interesting.
Great. What a tag team we could have had going on.
What a tag team. What a tag team.
Yeah.
And seeing as how we haven't crossed any lines, that the screen hasn't gone blue.
Yeah.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
So yeah, anyway, that client, I've done probably 3 or 4 deals with them, currently doing another one where sold that house, helped them buy another one, sold them that house that they then bought, and then they bought another house, and now they're selling that one. And that was all done through me, and that was one client that I have now 3 or 4 transactions with, because I just stayed in touch with them. And it's not like I ever sat down and said, I'm going to stay in touch with this client because I want them to give me business. Like, no, I just enjoy it, and I enjoy the relationship building part of real estate. And I think you have to naturally like that, because I think people are going to know if you're being phony or fake, or if you're just trying to keep in touch with them just for money. Like, no, yes, there is a benefit. We get more business out of it, but also you get to do it in a nice, natural way where you just get to create these great relationships with people. And both those clients I met in my first year of real estate, and I still talk to them all the time because, hey, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Organically keeping in touch with people is the most authentic thing. And it's not contrived when you do it correctly. It sometimes, I suppose, it might feel contrived a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But there's speaking of statistics, with the 80% and everything like that, I think there's something like 87% of people say that they would use their agent again that they last worked with, which in some ways I feel bad for the people that worked with the 13% that sucked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But only about seriously, less than half that, probably a quarter of that actually do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think the 80-20 rule is more like 90-10 for real estate, where like 90% of the business is done by 10% of the agents. So those 10% of the agents are already doing what they need to do to keep their clients. So.
Yep. Okay. So we come back to the company after your Odyssey, your Philadelphia and Italy Odyssey. You come back to the brand, and it's a different Tony. You've been around the world. You've been around the block.
Yes, I'm cultured.
You're cultured, and you get serious about. It's not that you weren't serious before, but there's a maturity factor here. There's a learning factor here. Tell me about the kind of renaissance or epiphany or shift you made, where you went from being on the team and a producer to really more of a top producer.
I think knowing your why you're doing business and what you want to get out of your life just in general is such a huge thing that I think a lot of agents probably don't know like why they're in the business. They don't know what their goals are, not necessarily in terms of a monetary goal, but in terms of like, hey, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And how does real estate and work factor into that? Figuring that out was probably the biggest game changer for me. That helped me kind of work towards it. And my fiance was a huge part of it. It's no like coincidence that like I met Brian and then I was like, oh my God, I have something in my life to like work towards, to like actually like provide and all this stuff. And figuring out my why was a huge, having something to work towards, because in real estate, it's so difficult because you may be part of a brokerage, but you are still your own boss. Nobody is sitting down at the start of the day saying you need to do this, this, and this. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done. And either you don't sell, so you don't make money, or you don't give your clients a good time, so you don't get referrals or new clients, or you get bad reviews, things like that. So when I was first in real estate, I was like 20 years old, out of college, have no idea what I'm doing, and like tell a 20-year-old to sit down in front of the computer and do work for 8 hours a day and completely self-start and do all, like, no, some 20-year-olds, sure. Most, absolutely not. So after
most 40-year-olds.
Sure. Most people in general are going to struggle with that. So after having the experience that I had for, 3 or 4 years, I'd see coming back to the firm in 2019 as me sitting down and be like, okay, it's my turn to finally do things for myself, by myself. And it was great. And I remember the first couple of months I struggled because I was still getting my footing. When I came back from Italy, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do real estate again. I wasn't completely convinced that it's what I wanted to go back into. One of the things that I always hated that's gotten a lot better was feeling like you have to be on 24/7 because it's such a client-faced business. I've worked on that and like have gotten to a point where I really don't feel too much of that anymore. And I remember sitting down with you one time in like October or November at some point after I had joined a couple months, and you were like, what's going on? Like you're back, like you've got some leads, you've got some clients and stuff, but I'm not seeing production. And like, so like, and you were like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. What the hell?
You only get one what the fuck per broadcast.
Great.
So
Perfect.
you've allotted your what the fuck.
And you were like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't have an answer for you. And then I remember driving home and I was like, yeah, what the F, Tony? Like, what are you doing? And sometimes you just need someone to call you out and be like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why aren't you doing it? And it helps. And so something after that just like kicked into gear, and that mindset shift of being like, what are you doing? Do you actually have plans for your life? Like, that's not what you said. That's what I said to myself.
No, I get it. Yeah. I don't talk like that, but yeah, I can hear myself saying what at WTF. I can hear myself saying that.
Yeah.
I don't remember saying that to you though, but I totally get the tone and the tenor and the message.
Yeah. Being like, hey, we've sent you some leads, like what's going on? And like, I know you're better than this. Like, and it was more, it obviously came from a place of caring and being like, hey, concern, but there's some red flags. Is there anything I can help with? And sometimes you just need to have that conversation. And like, I needed it. But that helped me kind of develop my why and be like, why am I in the business? What am I hoping to get out from it? And from then it just kind of exploded. Yeah.
So I remember someone saying to me, you work from home? I said, yeah, by and large, I work from home because, whatever it was long before COVID, but I work from home. Sometimes I go to the office, but lots of times I work from home. And they said, you must have like a lot of discipline. And I thought, let me think about this. I don't. I'm actually not a terribly disciplined person at all. I have a lot of bills.
Yeah.
But to your point about the why, if your why is your family, your little kids, your goals, you want to buy nice stuff, you want to get somewhere in life, you want to, kind of make something of yourself. I want to dive a little deeper into that because there's not a lot of 20-somethings that actually have these sorts of things figured out. Meeting your significant other is always going to be like a wake-up call of many sorts, because you want to have your act together and be a good, to meet the right person, you got to be the right person, right? You've heard that before. So
as RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love someone else?
I'm with RuPaul 100% on that particular thing. So how would you describe, if your why had its own elevator speech, what would it be? Because I think this is important for someone who's trying to figure their stuff out, regardless of their age. But what would your elevator speech be for your why?
Well, I talk more about how I found it out, because I don't think my why is going to be someone else's why, but I think a lot of people kind of struggle with how to come up with their own why. And there has to be a certain amount of self-love and caring for yourself. You have to, at the end of the day, know that what you're doing is going to benefit yourself, and you have to see yourself in a light so much that like you want to be able to improve yourself and grow. So for me, I looked at, what do I love to do? I love to travel. I love to try new foods. I love to eat. And I also like having nice things to an extent. Money isn't, to an extent, money is a motivator for me, but there is a certain level at which I hit that I'm like, look, I'm comfortable at this point. Anything over is great, but it's not going to be what motivates me to do more. What will motivate me is feeling like I'm having an impact in someone's life, or I'm providing something to someone else that is important and life-changing. And so knowing what your motivator is and knowing what you personally like and what you want to provide to other people is, I think, what really helps people figure out their why. For me, I love to travel. I want to make it a goal to go to a new country or place every single year. That is, a goal of mine. That is, something that I want to work towards in terms of lifestyle. There is a certain type of house and location that I want to be in. That's more of a like physical goal that I want to get to. I have my fiance who I love more than anything, and I want to be able to provide for that person and have them be comfortable that if at any point they were like, hey, I hate my job and it's sucking the hell out of my life, and I could say, hey, I make enough money, like if you need to take a year break and figure things out, like I want to be able to provide that. And so figuring out what motivates you, what you like, and what you want to provide to other people is probably going to help you figure out what your why is. And that takes a lot of introspection. Like that's not a natural skill that a lot of people have, to be able to look inside yourself and say, what makes my gears turn? What makes me happy? What brings me, all the happiness chemicals in the brain? That is not an easy skill, but it's learnable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you got to look in the mirror.
Like what made me happy at 23 is not what makes me happy at 29, and probably not what will make me happy at 35 and 40. So it can evolve, but it's always a being in the moment.
It's going to evolve. It's going to evolve. So you meet Brian. And how did you guys meet?
Oh, the internet. The internet.
You met on the internet?
After
I met my fiance too?
Yeah. And I had always said, I was like, I'm not going to find someone on the internet. I want to make it organic. I want to, bump into someone at the bar and be like, wow, you're cute. And like, that's not me. That's not what's going to happen. And I met Brian. We met on a dating app. It was great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's the same way Allison and I met. It's just how people do.
Yeah.
And I remember, this was after your relationship with Hamburger. I remember that.
Yes, Hamburger.
Hamburger. You got over that.
And then his Facebook got hacked and messaged everybody. And I had to go in and I had to delete Hamburger.
What a shame.
Most people have never been in the scenario where they have to delete their ex from existence. And I've had to do that. It was very difficult.
Well, I think we all need to delete our exes from existence in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
But I get what you're saying. From Facebook, that seldom occurs. Make believe food boyfriends are not something most people
They
have
only
to,
go so far.
yeah. So you
Especially
got over
when,
hamburger pretty quickly though, and that
yeah.
freed you up to be with Brian. And I remember the happiness, and it's always a good sign when you remain happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Remaining happy is a important part, I would say.
You got that right. So you're you you got your why together. You've got your relationship. You are ready to go, and then this COVID thing happens. Tell me about that journey. I'm sure there was probably an initial. We might have another what the fuck coming. By the
Yeah.
way, there was an initial reaction to that, and then there was the when the dust settled. How do we do this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'd never been through a housing crisis before. This was baby's first housing crisis. I was in high school when 2008 happened.
Yeah, rub it in.
And and I remember moving in with Brian after like 6 months of dating because I was still at my parents' house, and I was like, this will be a great test for our relationship.
Would be.
And I think the agents that succeed through COVID and post COVID are the ones that are most adaptable and the ones that can change very quickly. I think the world did a good job changing very quickly to adapting to the COVID environment.
Some of the world did.
Hmm?
Some of the world did. Yeah.
Sure, some of the world did. But I remember I was upset because I was just at the point where I was like, oh my God, I'm doing more business. I'm like getting more stuff under contract. I'm finally like in the groove on my own. And then boom, COVID happens and it's March. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get unemployment. I can't show houses. And no, I actually put between like March and May or June of when we couldn't show houses. I put like 4 or 5 houses under contract of houses that I had never even seen in person, because there was some loophole that we managed as agents that we sent our buyers to the houses directly,
Yep.
without us, and without the sellers there, and let them see it anyway. And I remember doing that. And I was like, oh my God, if I can put 4 or 5 houses under contract while not even having seen the house, like during a pandemic, I could probably make it work.
Yeah.
And then, interest rates were at like 2.75 or 3%. And so everybody was looking for a house. And in the time of COVID, I had to make sure that the business that I was doing was not just because it was a good market for buyers. There are a lot of new agents that got licensed during COVID because, hey, you get your real estate license and then, you get some leads off of Zillow and they'll probably buy something. And like, it was easy enough because, everybody wanted to buy a house in 2020 and 2021 because when are you ever going to get 2.75 as an interest rate? Like that'll probably never happen again.
And it won't. Yeah.
So it was nice to know after the craziness of the COVID market and into now that like it wasn't just an anomaly, that it wasn't just I benefited from the market that we were in, that it was actually a sustainable business. And it was interesting because I built a decent amount of referral business through the clients that I helped with COVID. And I think that, like you mentioned, your past clients are a gold mine, and if you work them correctly, but also in a natural way. One of the things that I always struggled with was I don't ever want to come across as ingenuine. I don't ever want to come across as reaching out to someone for money or to be like, hey, give me your referrals for your friends. And like I just wanted it to be a natural relationship.
Yep.
And utilizing the benefits of COVID and the clients that I got throughout that period for being the great buyer's market that it was has helped me to this day. And so I think there are a lot of agents who got licensed during COVID that are not doing that have a couple of deals under their belt. And they're like, well, those deals will just keep coming. Like, and it's like, hey, I don't think those deals will continue to come. You got to, make a sustainable business plan off of those things.
Well, we've observed, the collective that there are agents who have been in the business a number of years now who've actually never had to go to a listing client and say, you need to reduce your price.
Yeah.
They're agents who've never had to say to someone, I can't take your listing at that price. I could be turned into King Kong and it won't sell at that price.
I just did that the other day. I just said, and I probably lost a listing here in Beacon because I was interviewing with the owner, and he said, well, I talked to you and another agent gave me a higher price. And I said, that's great. I don't think it's worth that high price. And I sent a very long, detailed email that I knew probably wasn't going to change their opinion, but I felt like I still had to, just with the morals that I have, that was like, look, these are the houses specifically that I am using to price your house. You look at this one and you compare it with yours, there's this, and this is why it's this much, it's worth this much. And I broke it down as much as I could to try to say, look, if you want to list with someone that's higher, great, go ahead. But make sure that you're actually going to get what you're going to get and not them just trying to say a high price to get a listing. Because at the end of the day, A, that's against the Realtor Code of Ethics. And B, the longer you're on the market, the less money you net. And, even during COVID, when any realtor could sell a house during 2020 and 2021, literally any single realtor could list a house and it would sell. Yeah. The difference is how much the seller is going to net at the end of the day. And that relies on expertise and that relies on marketing skills, because the difference in pricing strategies and marketing is what's going to change the number that they net at the end of the day. So while, anybody can get licensed and sell a house in 2020 or 2021, not anybody can get the most money for their clients,
No, not at all. So what you described, we've both seen it. There's a term for it, and it's called bidding or buying the listing. Mm-hmm. And that is getting the listing by promising the seller that you can get more money. Now, that's an interesting sort of a idea to me. And for a member of the public to buy into that kind of is amazing to me, because it sort of sends the message that you can sort of hypnotize the public into digging deeper into their pocket to pay for something. And that is not in our skill set. They do not teach that in licensure class. How to hypnotize people into paying more. And people do want to hire someone that's enthusiastic about their house, but we will be seeing people who bid for listings and learn to regret it. But to your point, it's an ethical problem. Mm-hmm. When you misrepresent the future or current value of a property. So,
and it's very hard to when you're in the position of not doing that. When you're in my position, it's very difficult to get the seller to agree to less money, essentially, to agree to what they think is less money, because especially in this market where a lot of sellers still think that they can continue pricing their houses as if prices are still skyrocketing, to take advantage of that that mindset is very hard to work against when they've already got that kind of set. So it's difficult.
When you were in high school in 2007 and 8, and clearly the market had crashed. I mean, it had cratered. The news that you see now about, the sky's falling is baloney. Back then, it was absolutely clear. Banks were closing.
Yeah.
Like Indy Mac, Countrywide, Wachovia, Washington Mutual. This is the elephant graveyard of billion-dollar financial institutions, right? They were closing like it was an old black and white movie from the Depression, right? And people still had this lag that their house was different somehow. Look, I like your house and I think I can sell it, but I can't bend reality. I can't go into the space-time matrix continuum and pull someone out who believes that
Their
it's a
raised
seller's
ranch is
market.
special.
Yeah. So we anybody who's been in this business and you're getting you are displaying your stripes. Like,
yes,
sometimes you have to walk away from a listing. Now, a newer agent, a less experienced agent, sometimes will take that listing because it's like getting in a relationship thinking you'll change them, right? And they're not going to change it. If anything, it galvanizes their thought that, well, you took the listing, and that thing that you said about after 30 days, I forgot about that. You took the listing.
Yeah, I've been there.
Right?
Yeah.
So walking away from a listing hurts, but it doesn't hurt as much as dealing with someone whose sense of reality is warped, and you've got a client with a crazy expectations that are not rooted in the fact-based world of empirical science, right?
Correct.
And it would be nice to have a crystal ball, but I don't have one. And if you have one, I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah.
All right. So you've had these conversations, and this is kind of like calling card, by the way, of the shift that it's experiencing in the market. Where do you see things going, in your opinion? Where, if you had to predict, what do you think the next year is going to bring us, aside from the fact that you got to go to work and demonstrate value, and a lot of agents are going to get out of the business?
Yeah. I answer this question about like 2 times a month, I would say, because our clients ask us.
Absolutely.
And of course, don't have a crystal ball. And I really don't have much past information to work off of. Again, I was in high school when the Great Recession happened. I didn't know that me not doing my history homework would cause the Great Recession, but if I knew, I would have done it. But
Sure. If you'd only done your homework.
If I'd only done it, I made a video probably 6 months ago, maybe 5, close to when it was obvious that there was going to be a change in the market, of what my opinion was at the point. And I said that I thought that prices were going to stagnate, that we might see a slight downturn in prices, and that there was not really going to be any huge, crazy difference in prices, that it wasn't going to sharply decline or continue to go up. I thought that prices were going to stagnate. I think we were going to have growing pains, and I thought that prices might turn down slightly. Mm-hmm. I would say, compared to 6 months ago to today, I was probably a little right. I think that prices have stagnated. I think that there are some sellers who think that their houses, are the special ones, and are continuing to price their houses high, thinking that they'll get it because 10 months ago they would have. But when you look at like Q3 for Westchester County, even compared to last year, there was still an increase in price. Prices are still like going up in some areas. If you compare it month to month, they're going down by like a fraction of a percent. Yep. To me, that's what I call stagnation. It's not moving super large in any sort of way. Yep. They're kind of, when you look at it in a year perspective, it's going up by 2%, but you look at it in a month perspective, it's going down by 0.8%. Yep. So to me, there's really not a ton of motion happening.
I think you nailed that.
Yeah. And
that particular prediction.
Yeah.
Flattening out, I think you nailed it.
I think that's probably what we're going to see for the next year. Prices are going to go down slightly. And when I say slightly, I mean by like a few percentage points, where it's really not going to make a huge difference in anybody's wallet. Interest rates are obviously what's going to make the biggest dent for what people can afford. But I think that the leap in price that we saw over the past 2 years is here to stay, more or less. Unfortunately, I don't like that. I as much as I'm a realtor, I would like houses to go down in value so that my fellow millennials could afford something. That is not the realtor perspective, but that is the Tony perspective. But even the 2 listings that I put up most recently, so within the last month, I put up 2, and they were very, very different. And when I priced them, I told my sellers, I was like, look, we're pricing it the correct way. I will let you know what I think. I will send you comps and we'll go over it. The first one was this beautiful 4,000 square foot house in Orange County, in-ground pool, updated, had a barn in the back that had a basketball court in it. Wild. And we listed immediately multiple offers and we're under contract with a cash offer. And the other one that I put on was the first house, was one of the first client I ever worked with. It's a house that's listed at just like $199 and needs some updates and has like some electrical issues that we had to disclose and like needs a little bit of love here and there, but still got multiple offers as soon as we listed it because both of them were priced correctly and marketed correctly. So as long as things are done correctly, priced correctly, marketed correctly, things are still moving.
Yep.
And so to me, that's a signification that nothing really is going to drastically change. So like if I had priced the house that I listed at $750 at $800, it would have worked. Yep. But that's not the market that we're in. It has changed. And so when people are like, well, I just saw 15% price drops on Zillow everywhere. Well, that's not an actual change in what houses are closing at. That's not an actual change in price value. That's people listing higher and then realizing that that doesn't work anymore. And now they're coming down to reasonable levels. So when you see 15% price drops on Zillow and everyone's doing it, it doesn't mean that the market's tanked by 15%. It means that sellers are overestimating what they're worth by 15%. You have to look at what houses are actually closing at. So, yeah.
Have you ever heard the name Sue Adler?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sue's a friend of mine. She's a really high producing KW agent in northern New Jersey. She's around Millburn.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have just done is demonstrated something that Sue has been saying for years, which is the public has access to the data, but they need an agent to interpret the data.
Sure.
And what you just said is that in action. Where does this fluctuation and movement come from? What does all this mean? And you, with your boots on the ground and your head on your shoulders, were able to interpret that in the textbook way to translate it to the consumer mind so they understand that this is not volatility. This is what a pivot looks like. This is what adjustments look like. This is business as usual in a more balanced market or whatever it is. But you just explained why disintermediation is a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The largest transaction of people's lives should never be a do-it-yourself project, and you just demonstrated why you need a trusted advisor. So you say a lot of things that are kind of like my favorite things that you've said thus far, but that is one of my favorite things that you've said thus far. And I don't think you felt particularly inspired as you said it, but it is.
I'll watch it back later and I'll be like, yes, that was me.
No, you absolutely nailed it. And I will introduce you to Sue sometime. We'll have her as a guest on the broadcast sometime, but she's a super, super smart gal who's built a marvelous, wonderful practice. And that is one thing that she is just memorable quote from her that I remember from even 15 years ago. So I want to talk about how you are sharing your wisdom lately. And I've become a little bit of a lurker, a little bit of a creepy guy because I'm following you on the social world. And I think, does it go first on TikTok and then Instagram, or you put it on, you kind of both?
Yeah, I used to do it the opposite way, but now when I post videos, they go on TikTok first so I can add sound.
Yeah.
And then I download the video with sound, because on Instagram, for those of you that don't know, when you have a business account on Instagram, which I have for my page, you don't have access to any music. That is, you get access to like the standard stock of like just elevator music. So when you post on TikTok, I can put the music that I want and then download it and post it to Instagram. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's a nuts and bolts thing. And I was curious, but your videos, your, sharing of your thoughts are really on point. And I don't know if that was a coaching idea or if you just thought that you should make some content, or, like when I first blogged, I thought it would be a good idea to have, we got the kinky boots.
Look at those red heels.
No one can get me off my game like Tim, but your videos are so good.
Yeah.
High impact, brief, succinct, high impact, informative, effective. I would not be shocked at all. There's your listing, the 199 listing, telling us about. So, what was the inspiration for doing this, for creating your channels?
So it had been an idea for, I mean, every realtor goes, oh, I should make videos. I should make more. Like, that is just a thing that happens when you're a realtor, because everyone talks about videos are the hot thing of the moment. And like, I don't care about that. I care about like having fun and doing things that are actually beneficial. And so there was one point in like May or June where I kind of sat down and I was looking more at my business plan and where my business was coming from. And I get a decent amount of business throughout the year from social media and from marketing. And so I said, okay, I need to build this more. And I was like, okay, let me do videos. But I didn't want to, like, everybody has seen a raised ranch. I'm not going to go walk around a raised ranch and give a tour, because that's not interesting. Like, nobody cares about that. The only house tour videos that people care about are like the $20 million listings that are in New York City that look at Central Park.
Yeah,
like, that's the only ones that people really care about looking at. Yep. So there was this one, I was on TikTok one day and I was watching this one video of a guy, some mortgage guy, who simplified the whole mortgage process to say, you only need $15,000 in the bank to buy a $500,000 house. And I was like, that is such BS. That is not true at all. And that is doing a lot of harm. And it was a video that like went pretty viral. Like, it had like a couple 100,000 views. And I was like, this is doing so much harm to the community of making people think that if they only have $15,000, they can now afford a $500,000 house. Not even talking about like, the fact that he said the bank will pay your closing costs. But in order to do that, he didn't say that they increased your interest rates to cover that. Like, there's no nice bank out there that's just like, I'm going to pay your closing costs because I'm really nice. Like, no, banks don't do that. And like, didn't even talk about how much it costs to live in that house after you've bought it.
Yeah.
I made my own video that was calling that one out and said, hey, look at this video. Look at this stupid math that this guy did. This is not what it is. And this is what it actually costs that you should have in the bank to buy a $500,000 house.
I remember that video, by the way. You posted a very eloquent rebuttal, and what you did was sort of the devil's in the details here. And let me explain to you why this could be misleading, at least in our market.
Right.
And what I loved about that is that you put in the necessary caveats. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do that in Oklahoma or someplace not in New York, but around here, don't.
Right. And I mentioned, if you're in New York, good luck with the taxes on top of that. Like, if you have $15,000 in the bank, I'm sorry, you probably are not able to buy a $500,000 house in New York and afford if you're in Westchester County and you're buying a $500,000 house, you better be able to also pay $11,000 to $12,000 in taxes per year, if not more, depending on the town you're in. Yep. So that video of mine got a decent amount of views. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make videos that are focused around advice to buyers, sellers, consumers in general, because that's what's missing. Like, every realtor will make videos about their houses that they have for sale. They're going to make videos about doing a tour of their new listing. And like, nobody cares. Like, I'm sorry, no one cares. And so I was like, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers and I work with a lot of first-time home sellers, and they always have tons of questions. Yep. And I would take the questions that they were asking me or the things that I would see that they were struggling with and write them down and say, make a video about this. And, I'll do some factual videos here and there that's like the difference between a co-op and a condo and a townhouse, and just to like throw some factual information out there because someone's curious about it. But most of it is, you know, what should you be looking for, or in a wig when sometimes, you know what, I will say that video is my best performing video, and it stings that that is the best performing video that I've got, because I literally it was 6:55 and a client said, hey, I want to put an offer. And I was like, I have a Dungeons and Dragons session at 7:00. I'm already wearing my wig. And I was like, let me just make a quick fun video.
You do look a little bit like one of the Lannisters in that.
Yeah. They were known for their pink hair. So yeah, most of the videos are like, hey, what should you be looking for when you're like at a house? Or what happens when you go to a home inspection and it goes horribly? Or like, what if you've listed your house and you're not getting any action? Or if you're interviewing agents to list your house, what should you be asking them? What red flags should you be looking out for? Things that are actual advice that people are in real scenarios for, that can help them, that they're not getting from someone else. Because it's a scary process to buy a house for the first time. Also, to sell your house for the first time, really scary process. And for people who haven't been through it or are curious about it, like I want to be able to have like a little hub that they can go to and get some advice from it.
Well, it's a goddamn beautiful hub. And you said something that is the calling card of a consistent content creator, which is you're picking up ideas to make your posts as you go along. And sometimes when I have agents ask me, well, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to write about.
I've 100%. I have been the person who said to you, Phil, I just don't know what to write about. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to make content about.
Right. And I've said, well, you know, a great source of ideas is your outbox. You know, what questions have you answered for clients and sent them, which is, you know, dying and dusty in a corner of their inbox or deleted, which if the sun was shined on it in the middle of the town square, a lot of people would say, wow, I am smarter now than I was 5 minutes ago because I read or I saw that. And that is what you were doing. So you are an example of someone who asked the question, what am I going to come up with? And lots of times for me, the answer is share something that someone else made so that you can have something. But to be able to create the content the way you do, in the quality and quantity that you do, it's good.
Quality is an important part. I was actually talking to a group of people recently about marketing, and one of them asked me, well, when you have a video or a like blog that you're writing that you're just not convinced, do you like post it anyway? And I was like, well, when I write a blog, yes, because it's a blog, it's written, it's better to have it out there. And I was like, but with videos, like that's my face. And that is what I'm putting out to the world. And I want to make sure that the quality is there. And that I'm not sitting in my car with my hand shaking, like as I'm driving, making a video, because like, come on, just put some effort into it. Sit down at your desk, put on cinematic mode on your iPhone. We've all got it. And just like stand there and make a video. It takes me probably 45 minutes to make a 60-second video. Because I want to make sure it's good. And I know that it makes a difference that both in terms of quality that I put out, but also just being able to capture people's attention. Like they're not going to look if it's a bad video. And like in the first 5 seconds, like that it's funny. One of the first couple of videos, someone commented that I don't know who they are, but they were like, hey, I have a piece of advice. Stop introducing yourself at the start of each video. Stop saying, hey, this is Tony Ruperto from the Ally team at J. Phillip Real Estate. Today I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. They said, stop doing that. Just go right into the content. And I was like, oh, you're right. I should do that. And I did. And now I don't even talk about myself because it's on my profile. Like I don't need to introduce myself. I already it's on my profile. If someone wants to go and find out more about me, they just click it.
It's not half bad advice.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Wasn't me.
Yeah.
I didn't give it.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but it was great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So tell me about the Ally team. You brought up the Ally team.
Mm-hmm.
This was your idea. A lot of people, when they start a team or brand themselves, they use their name, but yours is, well, pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I struggled with was the name, and also how much I wanted it to be about me, and I didn't. So there are team structures are a beast because
You think?
yeah, because teams are like the hot thing in real estate, like making videos. Everyone's like, oh, I got to be nice on a team or something.
Yep.
And I didn't want to have a team that, well, first off, why I did it. So I was at a point in 2021 where I was like, I'm making enough business for myself. I'm comfortable, but I want to keep growing. I need to take the next step, and I don't really know what that was. And so I started coaching. You know, you and I talked about some different coaches. I ended up going with a company called Workman Success, and they're great. They've been fantastic. They've helped me a ton, and it's no coincidence that after I started with them, that I have done more business. And
it's supposed to work. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the next steps was, hey, why don't you consider, creating a team, leading a team, and helping other people grow in the same way that you have. And I was like, okay, I could do that. And one of the things that I did not want to do with this team was ever feel like I was locking someone in, or making them feel like they had to depend on me to be good and be a strong realtor and generate business. There are a lot of team structures that I've seen throughout the industry that are very, very predatory and make it so that you feel like if you leave the team that you're not going to succeed because you needed the leads that they sent you, or you needed, X, Y, and Z internet leads, or else you would starve. That is,
there are entire brands that trade on that.
correct.
Companies that trade
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
And that is the opposite vibe that I wanted completely. And so the whole mission of the team is to have agents join that want to grow their business in an organic way and get to a point where they are fully self-sufficient, to the point where they don't need to buy internet leads. Will they probably work leads while they're on the team to just keep things going in the meantime? Sure, absolutely. But it's not the main focus, and it's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to say, hey, let's figure out your why. Let's figure out your motivation, and let's build a business plan off of what you enjoy in real estate. With my coach, one of the things that I talked about, that I was like, look, I hate cold calling. Like, I don't like cold calling. It makes me uncomfortable. And if I'm not good at it, then the conversion rate's going to be horrible, because the person on the other side of the line is going to know that I hate it. So he was like, well, then don't do it. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, if you don't like it, then don't do it. And I was like, oh.
The sky opened up.
I didn't think of that. If I don't like it, I just shouldn't do it. And so, I worked on a business plan and said, this is where I want my business to come from. These are the parts of real estate that I really enjoy. Let me build a business off of it. And I want to be able to do the same thing for other people on the team, to be able to grow their own business to a point where they are self-sufficient, and, to be honest, that they no longer need me. And I don't want to ever, if someone wants to stay on and be part of the team forever, awesome, great. But I want to get people to the point where they feel comfortable enough that they've learned from me, they've built their business plan, they've got, a handful of deals under their belt, they've seen actual growth under being on the team, and can say, hey, I got what I needed, and thank you, and I'm good.
And they graduate.
Correct.
And they graduate. Your coverage area, and then we got to wrap it up. And I told you this would fly by.
I personally will drive an hour from Beacon.
Okay.
That is my maximum. So that is from Beacon to Kingston to Yonkers to Connecticut, Danbury to Port Jervis. That's my maximum. Comfort level is 30 minutes between Poughkeepsie and Ossining and Pauling and Middletown. That little circle is like my specialty. I know that area extremely well, but I've lived in the Hudson Valley my entire life. I know it extremely well. And I'll go basically within an hour. And also, if I don't, I probably have someone that will.
You probably do.
Yeah.
So this is how we reach you. And
Yep.
your website is, I'm afraid I can't see that. Is it AllyHudsonValley.com?
Yep.
Gotcha.
The allyteam.com was taken.
Those bastards.
So yeah, allyhudsonvalley.com. My cell is 914-494-0141. Yeah, that's me.
All right. So I'm proud of you. I'm happy that you're happy. I'm really happy that you're happy.
Me too.
Yeah. You are you've checked every box I wanted to get off. It's unscripted, but it's not unstructured, right? So you've checked every box I wanted to check with our chat today. And I thank you for the time. And any final thought you want to make before we have the credits roll and the Star Wars stuff come back?
No, I could talk, but I pretty much covered everything
you left it all on the field.
Yeah. So thank you, Phil, for having me on.
My pleasure. And this guy, it is not a coincidence, world, that the very first deals that he's done are still doing business with him, because he really does care. And we're very, very honored that this is the brand where you've chosen to do that very thing. So we want more of you. Timothy, take it away.